Okay, gang, I found my bilge was wet. So when I go with a wet bilge, and luckily enough, this manual switch can dry out the bilge. If you get stuck, you gotta run home for dinner. You hear that? The bilge is super dry now. I can turn that off. The bilge pressure is building on its own. That's a bilge pump and it's doing its job correctly. If I had to run home, I couldn't handle the boat and I didn't want the boat to sink. It's a very important thing to put this to auto, and it will automatically sense too much water in the bilge and it'll run all day. So what you're running at risk is that the battery power supply, which is 12 volts, might run out. So overnight, it could run pretty much 3 days straight in this system of auto. But if you go 3 days straight, all of a sudden, day 4, you got too much water in the boat might sink, okay? So it's your responsibility as an owner to understand you need to always check the bilge. All right, so this is a mechanics video, and we're gonna troubleshoot all the way through, and we're gonna figure out why the bilge is wet. So what I did was I inspected up above a little bit more to see, and I want to operate. It's very important to keep everything operational. So I wanted to operate normally, and I'm going to investigate what's going on. Well, what I did was I noticed that we had leaking here up at the faucet side. So all we had to do was just find that leak and troubleshoot it down. If that leak was busting so hard to account for this, we're good. It could be more complicated. There might be other leaks all over. I actually noticed earlier when I first acquired this boat, we have a starboard, bow, and port. These are 3 tanks. So I isolated, there was a leak out at the bow side, and I know that there's a small leak up in the bow. I'll shut this valve off, righty-tighty. And what you can do is you can troubleshoot the different tanks, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and find out which tank has problems. As a matter of fact, I want to upgrade these tanks and put empty gauges. So I really want to see a gauge here. I want to put a gauge here to tell me if any of these are full or light. I don't want to go here and continue to hack on what's full or not. If I want to stay cheap, I could do that. So that's the upgrade I'm looking for. Okay, let's get back into the mechanics part. I found a leak. So this leak, we have to think about what happened inside the power pump. This is the pump, and that red part is a pressure gauge. Now that could be really confusing because all you see is wires coming out. So you have to go into the research. I got trained as an aviation mechanic, so I know what's going on with this thing. But I still don't know exactly how I'm going to find the part, so I have to do the research. Part of the mechanics discipline is to go and research the part and never try to fix something without understanding what's really going on. So what I did was I took the part and I found the placard. The procedure is always from the part number. You do the research. The internet is the greatest thing now. I worked in the department at Apple Computer when I was a computer engineer, and Google just got released. Well, it used to be we have to do these research part by calling our companies, the vendors, to find the part. Engineers are getting paid a whole lot of money just sitting at the office chasing parts. Now Google comes out, we have the search engine. We could search that part number right on our search engines, any computer, any smartphone. What happened was I found the part quickly. I went to eBay, found a cheap, full-on assembly, non-operational. I stripped it down. I swapped the parts to something that works. As a matter of fact, let's go back in here. So here, this is my old part. This has a tear. You can actually see the tear on the bladder. this part spins, that bladder leaked. So that was part of the big leak into the bilge. So what I did was I found a full component of that, and it's inside my boat right now. What was on that boat, on that part, was a 40 PSI. This 40 PSI does not match the pressure switch that was on, that's on my boat. My pressure switch is 25 PSI. Now you have to imagine, if I left this on, it would have busted the lines easy, because my lines cannot handle, my sink lines cannot handle 40 pounds. So as a mechanic, you have to understand, you have to be in the right spec. A little bit more important, if this switch was broken, we're going to get a lot more than 40 PSI going inside those lines. Here's another case. This was leaking. This was enough to keep the pump running. Now you're more than 40 PSI. You might burn out the battery real fast because it's going to keep pumping. And if this leaks and it's not 40 PSI, you're going to get a leak at the pump and not a leak at the faucet. This is the replacement part. Look how it mashed up. So these two can literally, we could overhaul this component, save a whole lot of money. If you're a mechanic, just change the washers, change the micro switch. Here's a micro switch. When the pump feels 40, turns off. This is on, this is off. Now, what's on and off? On is when it's contacting this, and it's shattered. So notice it's contacting, and now it's not contacting. Okay, you get the point? Okay, so that is the mechanical part. It's really fun because when you see a leak, now all of a sudden you're an investigator, you're doing detective work, you find the leak, you research the part number, that the suspected component. There's always a placard on every one of these mechanical devices now, and you just do it immediately. Chat GPT, you're just gonna find out exactly how to replace your parts on your boats. It is the greatest time ever now. We are in an age where artificial intelligence can help you quickly diagnose a boat, fix the parts, and every time you fix a part inside of a boat, one component in a boat, the whole boat magically works nicely. And then you can buy a cheap boat and continue to make things much more valuable. All right, gang, that is your mechanic session for the day.